Rhythm guitar. It's the most important thing you can learn to do. Now at the top of this video, I just put a little clip of me playing some funk rhythm guitar, a 1-4 chord change. Just made up some parts on the spot. And some of it was a little bit off, but for the most part, I tried to lock into that pocket. And, that is such an important thing. Playing rhythm guitar is what you're going to do 90% of the time. Now, I see Instagram guitarists and YouTube guitarists all the time running scales, running patterns, running licks, playing solos all day long. But what am I going to hear when you play rhythm? Are you going to lock in like Malcolm Young? I see a lot of players that play really good lead guitar. And that is a skill. And I commend you for that skill. But the reality is, you've got to nail the rhythm guitar. You've got to make it feel good. You've got to learn how to work with a drummer, react with a drummer. And on a basic level, say a Malcolm Young level, you've got to be unrelenting. You've got to be in the pocket. You've got to be locked in like a machine. If you're not, then it ain't happening. I noticed that right away. I've seen some great players in my life. And a lot of times, it's not the solos that I go, A lot of times, it's their rhythm feel. It's where they sit in the pocket. Are they playing that rhythm guitar? Are they playing those parts like their life depended on it? Or are they just playing, waiting for the next solo? Now, I have, throughout my career, I have played rhythm guitar like my life depended on it, because it did depend on it. 90% of the time, that's what I was called to do. And then I'd get called to play a solo. Now, I think one of the toughest things to do is play a mean rhythm guitar locked in all night long, driving it home. And then someone goes, solo. That is a complete shift of gears. So if you don't realize that, if you don't understand that, and you've not felt that, go play a gig where you're hammering out rhythm guitar parts all night long. You've got the sledgehammer out, and you're just, and you're pumping out rhythm guitar like Malcolm Young or Keith Richards. I tell you what, the one time, people can say, oh, Keith Richards, let me tell you something. The one time I filled in on a Stones tribute act, and my job was to be Keith, or Keef, as they say. Man, I was so sore the next day having to do that high elbow thing he does and hammering out those chords, man, all night long. And then playing those Chuck Berry solos between it and the stance. Big part of it is that, that bow-legged kind of stance that he has. And man, I was literally riddled the next day. I think this was probably about maybe 3 or 4 years ago that I did that. Man, I was so sore the next day. I was like walking like Mr. Burns. But man, I know I did a good job, and I know I played, Keith like Keith would have played it. I didn't play any of my shreddy solos. I didn't turn into Bad Brad when it became solo time. No, I played exactly what Keith Richards would play. I kept it simple. I kept it in the Chuck Berry realm. And I never broke out of that realm. I stayed true to the gig. And Keith Richards is a great rhythm guitar player. He's written a lot of great riffs. And you could say the same thing for Jimmy Page. You could say the same thing for Eddie Van Halen. Great rhythm players with great feel, not just great soloists. Solos don't sell songs. I'm sorry. But, a band like Dokken, I never really enjoyed the vocals in that band. I never really thought they had like amazing riffs, but they did have great guitar solos. And I think that really hurt that band. Now I know people are gonna go, man, Dokken sold millions of records and Dokken this and Dokken that. I get it. I bought a few of their records. I much preferred George Lynch's project Lynch Mob after that. He had better riffs, better singer, and just a better overall sound. And, I thought that stuff was much better. Dokken, on the other hand, the solos weren't enough for me to carry it. Van Halen, on the other hand, even his simplest riffs were killer riffs, memorable riffs. And as his career advanced and he started incorporating some really cool voicings on songs like Hear About It Later and, Women in Love and all these different things, man, he is a amazing rhythm guitarist, and that is what propelled that band to stardom. Sure, everybody thinks about the two-handed tapping and Eruption and all that, but man, if that's all he had, if he had just been a mediocre rhythm player and a mediocre writer of riffs, I'll say this, I don't think Edward Van Halen would have been as huge if he had not been able to back it up with some solid writing, some solid riffs, and great rhythm guitar. I hope that I start seeing some of these IG shredders and these YouTube shredders that sit there all day and I'd like to just see them nail a rhythm guitar part. Let me see you hammer it to the wall. Let me see you play rhythm guitar with conviction, like your life depended on it. Like you've got an angry drummer and he's like looking at you and mean mugging you and go, come on, man, come on. I've had drummers like that, and they taught me to lock in and play with them. And if you're just sitting in your room, look at me, look at me, look at me, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it doing that. Or maybe you've got innate ability, and maybe you are a good rhythm player. But, man, I'm telling you, it's the most important thing you can do. There's not a lot more that I can say, except if you're not focusing on rhythm guitar, I'm going to notice it. And maybe people won't go, oh, the rhythm guitar sucks. But they'll feel it in the groove. And maybe instead of the crowd getting off their butts and getting on that dance floor and getting out in front of your band and being 100% committed, just like you're 100% committed. If you're not playing rhythm guitar with conviction, you're not 100% committed. And why would you think an audience would be committed to you if you're not 100% all in 100% of the time? It's not just up to the drums. It's not just up to the bass. It's not just up to the keyboard player or the singer or anybody else. The feel can be driven by the guitar, irregardless of what everybody else is doing. And you might have an amazing bass player that fills all the holes. I'm not a fan of anybody that fills all the holes. It's your job as a musician for everybody to listen to everybody else. Pick your spots. Don't take every spot. Nobody wants to play with somebody that's filling every hole. So endlessly practicing fills and chord subs and all this stuff, that's not it, man. That's not it. Locking in, listening, waiting for a chance, and knowing, hey, the bass player filled at the end of the last fourth bar. We're into the eighth bar now. I think there'll be a little space to put a little guitar thing in. Nothing crazy, but a little rhythm guitar fill. Just a little two note thing, or maybe a little single note thing, or a little bass note hammer on or something. Being a rhythm guitar player is the most important thing you can do. And, I notice it, man, when I play, when I see bands and I go, yeah, but dude, you're not nailing that guitar, rhythm guitar with conviction, man. You're just playing the part. Are you just playing the part? Are you driving the band? If you're playing songs from the classic rock era, you should be driving the band. You and the drummer should be locked in like a machine. If you want to be a great guitar player, you need to be a great rhythm player first.